So Annette was saying, you're all very welcome. It's great to see you back here again. When the lockdown came and we all had to retreat into our inner spaces and stay in our homes and not go 2 kilometers from here and there, I felt very fortunate that I adhere to socially distance and lockdown because I have this space to walk every day. And in a way, I welcomed the lockdown because for me personally, in the first time in decades, I wake up in the morning and I had nothing to do. And the old monkey brain would come in and say, you have to be doing, what do you, no, there's nothing to do today. And I said, and it was after a couple of days, a couple of weeks, I really got into that beautiful rhythm of just being present, going inside, journeying every day, walking the land here every day, every night. And little by little, I found that that busy part of my brain started to settle down and go away. And something very beautiful and powerful started to happen. I began hearing my soul speak to me again in ways I hadn't really heard for a long time, in a really much deeper way. And it very much came through in when I was out here on this land. She, as I call her, the Cailleach, and she, the fairy folk, came through very strongly and very powerfully. And there were times I wondered and worried a little bit about Dunderry Park and how we were going to open up again, how we were going to get people back into circle. And little by little, these little insights and awarenesses started to come to me. And I was in this field one evening, pondering on all of that. And because I had been thinking, you know, there's nothing going to happen now for a year or so. We're going to be shut down. We're not going to be able to meet in community. Annette did wonderful work doing her drumming circle every Monday. I was doing some virtual connecting on the spirit boats and healing circles and things like that. But I didn't feel that was enough, really. I think, you know, for shamanism is about here. It's about this space. It's about us together. It's about nature. So at one particular point, I'm walking along here and going through the oak grove over there, and she said to me, get a tent. Build it and they will come. And I had this flash, an image of this tent here now, the one we're sitting in. And I shook my head and I said, oh yeah, sure. And over the days, it kept coming back, kept coming stronger and stronger. And then I came across an article about people doing outdoor theatre in Scotland. And I sent it to Natasha, my daughter. And that was a dangerous thing to do. I should have known better. Because the next thing I get a message back, Dad, do you think we could do theatre at Dunderry? And, of course, the conversation started, and the idea of doing this Shamanic Gathering started, and then we talked about having, you know, folk music sessions here again, like we did for Spirit of Folk, to bring people together in a safe way like this. And the thing just took off, and it escalated, and I should have known, like, as with Natasha, you mentioned it, and she's aware of it, and she is everything organized. She put all this together with Connor, who's behind the screens there, a great guy. He's set up the whole system we have here today. And Caroline, our business partner, who have launched their Soft, a new production company, Spirit of Folk Productions, to do this kind of thing, to do folk music, to do theatre, to bring people together in a safe space. And bringing the shamanic element into that as well, through the work I do and through the work Annette does as well. So that's where it all began, and that's where it is now. And I'm delighted to be standing here at this moment right now with you in this space. It's a beautiful thing. You know, we've been through a lot in the last 6 months with what has been going on out in the world, and We are witnessing massive changes happening on the planet at the moment. And many of you contacted us here, of a wider shamanic community, saying, do you know, I was glad that I had a connection to shamanism over this time, because it saved me, it helped me. I had something to hang on to, and the fact that we were connecting up in the virtual world meant a lot to a lot of folk. And the fact when you were out in nature, you had this sense of connecting to the spirit of nature, to the land, to your guides. And that is vitally important, and it's going to become more important, because this isn't over yet. We're moving into a time that the ancient shamans have predicted for a long time. A time of purging, a time of change, where the earth herself is wakening up to the fact that we as a species we need to be stopped doing what we're doing to her, and therefore doing what we're doing to ourselves. So over the whole time, like many of you, I was, looking at all the different things that was on social media, on the TV, and the whole kind of thing that was going on, and I could see one argument and then another argument, and people were saying this about this and this about that, and I was aggrieved by the amount of tension that people were setting up between themselves. So what if you believe one thing or you believe another thing? I mean, and if some people don't agree with you, they're wrong and you're right. And what came to me was, when I stood back from it, that not many of these people are looking at themselves. Not many of these people are looking at their own shadow that's been activated here. And then I had this idea, like what Stan Groff talked about when he said holotropic states or psychedelics were non-specific amplifiers or catalysts of the psyche. They bring up what's in your own unconscious, activate your karmic residues, your samskaras. They activate your birth process, your astrological chart, whatever you came in with. So when we stop and take stock of that, we must come to realize that whatever you experience and whatever your reaction is to this situation is yours. It's personal to you. And therefore, it's an opportunity to grow. Because if you don't, as Jung would have said, withdraw our projections from the world, that's the best thing we can do for the world, is to withdraw our own projections from it and integrate our own shadow stuff. Because that's why the world is the way it is. People are throwing the shit all over the place, whether it be against one group or another group. And we're all human beings here trying to make it through this world, this life, trying to integrate, to individuate, trying to grow. And we need to help each other do that. We need to support each other doing that. And we need to look to the spiritual dimension, the shamanic dimension. Because as some people would ask me for my opinion on things, and I don't generally give my opinion on political stuff or gender stuff or racial stuff, but I have one position on that. And that position is that spirit doesn't have a gender, or it doesn't have a color, or the soul does not have a nationality. We incarnate here into this space to do our work, to grow, to burn our karma, which then gives us the fuel to drive that engine of individuation that takes us to those higher realms, where we vibrate at a higher frequency. And that's our goal, that's our purpose here. That's why we are here now. And if we put that in the center of our intention for our lives, a lot of things change. A lot of things start making sense, because we come to a place where we can take on the truth, some perennial truths that have been out there for generations, like suffering is the growing pains of the soul. We don't get to grow unless we shed what is holding us back in terms of our ego position. So we need to have an ego death rebirth experience. All the sages and shamans and visionaries and mystics have said this from the dawn of time. The other insight that came to me walking the grounds here one time was, do you know, Martin, the only way to heaven is through hell. That's the hell of our own shadow and of our own unintegrated experiences, the stuff that we're not working with. So it's like this planet is a school where we come to learn, often the hard way, how to be better human beings and therefore transcend the limitations or self-imposed limitations so that we can transcend through the spiritual realms. Not only in this lifetime, but in many lifetimes to come, and we've probably done it in many lifetimes before. So if we take that as a given, then we can sit in the space and say, okay, the external middle world is on fire. Everything is changing. Society seems to be crumbling. The media has it all hyped up. It's like once this third eye opens up, have you noticed? And you see that you have the vision and the veils part for you. It's like, I'm shaking my head. I'm saying, Jesus, do they really expect us to believe that shit? Do they really want me to buy this bullshit that I'm being sold? In terms of, you know, everything being glossed over, it's all about products being sold to you. It's different media outlets putting different slants on things. And I don't believe any of it. Because I don't think it's a matter of belief. It's a matter of knowing. And that's the difference. And that's why I love shamanism, because it's the path of direct revelation. You want to know something, you open up to your guides, you do your journey work, and they will give you the instruction that is specific to you. Because it's not one size fits all. No two people are going to have the same experience in life or the same destiny in life. We all have a script. And when we drill down into the likes of archetypal astrology, people like Rick Tarnas and Jung and others who work with archetypal astrology or transit astrology, I find it fascinating that the movements in the heavens impact and influence what's going on the earthly plane, energetically. Consciousness is moving. So what's happening in you? So you're a Leo with a sun in Aries and a Taurus, and you have all these conjunctions going. And when you take that, for me, that's like a map. When you look at that map, you say, okay, this is what I need to be working on. So each of us are resonating at different frequencies in that regard. But all of us here have similar energies moving within us, depending on when we were born. Those of you born in the 50s and the 60s and the 70s and the 80s and 90s have a particular generational energy that's moving you. But then also there is the archetypal realm. And at the moment, we have Pluto and Saturn playing up, activating in conjunction with each other, and then other planets in the meantime. So the archetypal play at the moment is Pluto is Lord of the underworld. She reveals all that is hidden in the shadows, the collective shadow of humanity. And we have a huge shadow as a species. From the moment we evolved, look what we've done to each other. Look what we've done to this planet. So there's a huge collective shadow. So Pluto, the Lord of the underworld, stores it all up and brings it to our attention on a personal level, but also on a collective level. So it's exposing that is hidden to the truth. And then you have Saturn, the Father, the Lord of Karma. He comes in now. When your first time you met Saturn in a big way was when you were 28 to 30. On your first Saturn return, if you reflect on your life around that time, you will discover that there were significant events in your life happened around that time that set the tone for your life up until you were 58 to 60, the second Saturn return. Not many will see the last one because that's another 30 years from there. But if we look at what's going on now in that regard, Pluto's storing it all up, and Saturn is saying, go to your rooms, stay at home, go into yourselves, and deal with your stuff. Work on what's within you. Now, if we all do that, first of all, I think we need to do it for our own mental health. And I'll tell you why. again, another insight came into me that the universe seeks novelty, she said. Consciousness is constantly, dynamically searching out for newness and novelty. It wants to express itself fully in this particular reality and every other reality, every other dimensions that we don't know about. And it is relentless in that regard. I've seen this on visions. It's like a boiling mass of creative consciousness bursting out into the world, trying to find expression for itself. And I remember on one of those journeys, I got a little bit kind of freaked out because I said, Jesus, the genie's out of the bottle. The God thing, or consciousness itself, is out of control here. It doesn't know what it's doing. It's like it's just crazily going for broke. It wants to search out and express itself in every different way and form. But the good news is there's also another part of itself who is trying to put order on that and trying to make sense of it and trying to contain it into something that we can channel. And you and me are that. We are an aspect of that consciousness that is playing itself out. And it has reached on this planet, some would say, some would doubt it, that humans are the apex of that expression. Because we have this ability to reflect. We have this ability to look at what we are doing and what's going on within ourselves. And we have the ability to change it. We have the ability as human beings to be co-creative with the Creator, with consciousness. So, when this energy comes in through the collective, as Carl Jung would talk about, archetypes get activated, like the archetype of Saturn and Pluto at the moment. Here's what I think happens. Each individual gets plugged into that powerful current of conscious energy. It enters into your being through the circuitry of your soul's matrix. All of that matrix is discoverable for you if, again, looking at your birth chart, looking at your birth trauma. You know, some people do past life regression and discover things, but you find a pattern starts playing out. And when you seek out and look for the patterns, then you get a clue. And when you get the clue, you can follow a path to your own truth. And therein lies the key. Because if you follow your own path, your own truth, by doing the hard work of going in within yourself, where it's doing holotropic breath work, shamanic journeying, counseling or therapy, dance, meditation, whatever your practice is, it'll lead you there. But what it will lead you to is your own truth within yourself. And therefore, when you discover that, an amazing thing happens. First of all, we take responsibility for ourselves. We don't blame anybody else for what goes on in our lives. Because I love what Ivor Brown and Stan Groff said. Jung said it best, of course, and you've often heard me quote what he says. He said, the psychological rule is that which we hold within ourselves we meet in life as fate. I love that. What he meant by that was, at the core of our being, it's what Stan Groff calls a coex system. It's a system of condensed experiences consolated within our unconscious mind that is also connected to the collective unconscious, and it's storing within our being. So it's manifesting in our daily lives maybe as despair, despondency, maybe depression, stress, struggle in relationships, all the stuff we have to deal with in our everyday lives. That's the kind of the middle world kind of aspect of it. But also, in a fascinating way, it's like we resonate at a particular frequency around this frozen past that Ivor Brown talks about. He said these experiences, they can be childhood traumas, they can be the birth trauma, they can be other lifetime traumas, whatever. There's a wound there, and we're all wounded. This is where we come to in shamanism, the idea of the wounded healer. And when we embrace that wound, rather, what most of us do, and what most of us are encouraged to do in our culture, in our society, is to run away from that wound and try and put salve on it through drugs, sex, food, materialism, all sorts of things in the middle world where we think success will bring us peace. So we're doing the journey the wrong way around. We're trying to fill up that emptiness and that wound from the outside in. And in actual fact, what we need to do is do it from the inside out. So what happens when we start to work with that wound? It's an amazing process that happens. And this is this idea of you have to get to heaven, you have to go through hell. The hell is the healing. It's the working on ourselves. It's getting into that space. But once you do, and you start having the honest conversation with your shadow, and you start integrating, and you start working and healing your woundedness, several things happen. First of all, the things that plague you and bother you in your everyday life begin to dissipate. So the depression eases, the anxiety eases, your relationships improve with yourself and with other people. But also in a very fascinating way, and I've seen this happen over the 30 years I've been doing this work. The world changes towards you. Because you've changed the frequency within your soul, within the matrix of your soul, within your unconscious. So it starts vibrating at a different frequency. So therefore, the people, experiences, and situations that you attract to yourself in life is directly related to the vibration within your soul. You change that vibration on the inner level, your external world changes. You manifest different experiences. It eases out. So the dysfunctional relationships start to ease out. You stop selling yourself short to people in the world. You start believing and loving in your own self, so therefore you attract that to you. You stop giving yourself away. I mean, many of us in this way of being are introverts, often intuitives, feeling types. A lot of empathic people come into this work. We're drawn to be healers. We're drawn to be carers. We're drawn to love Mother Nature. But we're also vulnerable to be prey for predators. And we have a lot of situations where the narcissistic types prey on the empathic types. And I'm meeting a lot of that in my work over the last number of years. Because you have such a giving, loving heart, and you're warm and passionate about helping people and helping the planet, you can leave yourself vulnerable for these people to manipulate and play you. And when you take your own journey into yourself and you find that your true value is within yourself, and when you embrace your power, there's another shamanic term, owning your power. Now, your power is your pure life force and life essence that you have come into this life with, that you can recharge and regenerate it from nature, particularly works for me, from your yoga practice or from your singing, your dancing, and your laughing. So the old shamans would say, to their patients or their people, when did you last laugh? When did you last dance? When did you last sing? And many of us have forgotten how to do that, or lost touch with that. And it's one of the things I miss us not being here in the house, in the room, is the dancing, the trance dancing, and the laughter on the steps, or in the dining room. Often walking by the dining room, there's just cacophony of laughter where people are connecting and laughing with each other. And then singing. Well, Natasha's bringing the singing back. We're going to have the singing back here. But it's a good question to ask ourselves. When did we do something for us that was loving and caring for ourselves that brought joy to us? And what I see in the darkening in the world at the moment is it's almost like there's a concerted effort to take away our spirit, our laughter, our dance, and our song. And that's why we really need to be mindful about that and keep doing what keeps us happy in that place. Coming to places like this, meeting in community when we can. That was one of the things that were taken away from us. Interconnection. This whole pandemic thing has separated us from each other. It's families divided. We can't meet in social groups, we can't meet in community or whatever, for whatever reason. And that's why we're here today. Because, she said this was to happen. And here's the thing. not only for us here sitting in this tent right now, but this is a symbolic event. What all you are doing here today is something really vital and really important. You're making a statement that's saying, we can meet together. We will meet together. And we will go forward safely. And so we're sending a message out into the world that's saying, yeah, we're not done. We're not stopped. We're still gathering in circle. And one of the reasons that we're filming some of this event today, and don't worry, you're not on camera, it's just on me and Annette, is because we want to be able to share what we are doing here today with people who can't be here today or couldn't make it here today. Because we want to send a message out there into the world to say, like, we are meeting safely, we're coming together, and it is possible to do it. And somebody sitting in their room somewhere who's feeling lonely, lost, and despondent will say, they'll feel lifted in their heart by that. They'll feel lifted in their heart by the fact that when you journey today, when we do the Druid ceremony, when we do the fire ceremony tonight, that we're sending out a collective pulse of energy to the world, saying, and that works, you know. That resonance works. We know this in the shamanic world, that when you come out of this place, this middle world place, and you go back and track along the line, and I often think of it as like, this is a movie screen that we're projecting all our lives onto, and we're interacting with others, like Shakespeare said, all the world's a stage. And so you go back to the projector and into the film, and beyond there you go back to this, you change the script in your lives, and then you roll the film forward, and there's a new image, there's a new movie, and you can create a happy ending, a different ending. That's on a personal level, but we also can do that on the collective level too, and that's what we're doing at the moment. And what we have a plan for you today is, you know, after this little talk, we're going to do our first shamanic journey here in the tent, to get us tuned into journeying to meet with our guides and go to the land of the She, to the fairy folk. And we're going to meet the Cailleach there. And we're going to talk to her about what it is. What do you need now? What help do you need in your life to help you through these dark times that are coming, to maintain your resilience, to help with your mental well-being, and to connect with her directly. During the lockdown, you see the new cairn, we put it out there. You know, that was another thing that came in. It was like everything had gone quiet. There was nothing going on. There was nobody around. And she said, look to the cairn. This is the cave of the Cailleach. So my brother Peter came up with this idea that he created this new door for it with the tree of life on it. And he wasn't content with doing that. He built a new wall around it. And we did that to honor her. We did that to respect her. We did that to honor the goddess and the feminine energy of this place, but also of the planet. And you know, she loves it. And you know what else she loves? She loves the fact that you're all sitting here today. And that's why when we do that journey, we'll journey to her, to honor and respect her, and to give and to give homage to her, but also to ask her for help and healing with what's going on in your life, and to give you resilience for going forward. Coming back to shamanism itself, just to remind ourselves that it's the path of the wounded healer. We have to go through an initiation, which often involves a dismemberment, in order to let go of ego constraints that hold us back from being our true, magnificent, shining light selves. And that dismemberment comes to us in different ways. Each individual will experience it differently, and I'm sure you've been through some of it over the last 6 months or so. And what we got to be careful about here, folks, is that we don't allow ourselves to lose faith, to lose hope. That we don't go down this rabbit hole of despair and of giving up and of despondency, and to be overwhelmed by what's going on in the world. Because there's a lot of noise in the world right now. A lot of negativity. And the media outlets love that stuff because it sells more stuff. And it's time to switch off a lot of that and do what you were able to do during the lockdown. Get out in nature, get your drum out, keep journeying to your guides regularly. It's a cleansing, it's a connecting in, it's raising your frequency, it's keeping you in a charged space, because you know what happens when we lose power. That power, which is the life force that flows within us. Do you ever notice how it can slowly start insidiously going down, and we start losing, and as our battery becomes depleted, if it gets to a certain level, it's hard to get back from it. It's hard to get back from becoming ill or depressed or being despondent or, no, I don't give a damn anymore. This is too much. I'm overwhelmed. And a lot of people are feeling overwhelmed. So that dismemberment brings us into the place of letting go of the stuff that's holding us back. It might be our addictions, and particularly addictions now are becoming very, very strong, because what the ego mind will do now, it will seek sustenance from things that are going to give you temporary relief. Your sugar, your alcohol, your bad food, your addictions to social media, drugs, all sorts of relationships, all that stuff. Watch your addictions over the next while. They're going to get really activated if they haven't become activated already. That's another part of the shadowy aspect of what's going on. But when you connect to your power and you're honest with yourself, you'll find that lifting. So then we know with the shaman then that it's about the journey. And the shaman changes their state of consciousness through drumming, as we do, or breath work, or in some places through medicine plants. And again, it's all about, first of all, easing out and burning off shadow stuff that's holding you back. And then it's opening yourself, and it's like you're coming through the chakras as you do this. As you get to this chakra here, this is where the shit always comes in, the emotional side, the painful stuff. We often see it in holotropic breathwork up there in that room. You know, people going into the process, and it's the crying, and it's thrown up, and it's purging. This purging is necessary. It has to happen. But don't get caught in the purging either. Go work through the purging, let it go. And then the next stage is often a very difficult stage for people to, is coming into the heart chakra. Coming into loving yourself, coming into opening your heart to yourself and to others. Because again, at the moment, it would be very easy to keep our hearts closed and to lose that connection to each other and ourselves. So that's the second thing we do from the shamanic point of view. The shaman also, is able to jump dimensions, travel into other worlds, which is an incredibly, amazingly beautiful thing to be able to do in these times. Because you can be trapped in your own house, which may happen again. We don't know what's going on. But you can put on the headphones or take out your drum, and within moments, you can be in another world. You can be running with the wolves through the enchanted forest in the lower world, hanging out with the she-folk, with the energies of nature. And you can have an expanded sense of yourself. You can have this true connection to who and what you really are in that place. Or you can go to the upper world and meet with your spirit guides and go back to the high light vibrational frequency, your home world, for example, where your soul came from in this incarnation, and go back to your higher self and say, how am I doing down there? And they'll say to you, you're doing well. You're doing good. Fair play to you. Jesus is a tough one, I know that. It's hard. You're suffering. But don't lose faith. Keep heart, because you're doing exactly what you came down here to do. Because many of you, and particularly people who come into this shamanic kind of work, healing work, spiritual work, I'm finding lately when I'm working with clients that many of the people who are coming to me are having experiences of having chosen to come here this time. To be light bringers here. To be a hollow bone, as the shamans talk about, or a conduit for light to come into the world. And that may be just about you writing poetry or painting or journeying, or helping your neighbor, or giving an encouraging word to people. It's a very beautiful thing to be able to do. So don't lose heart. Keep in touch with that spark within you. Because as the darkness gets, darker around you, keep your light shining. Because you know the old story, one candle in a dark room shines the light everywhere. And if we all do it as a collective, then we're keeping the lights on. Not only within ourselves, but within the world as well. And then others will pick up on that. Some of you who may have seen the talk I give online, Shamanism in the time of COVID, really the title for that talk should be How Shamanism Can Help Us in Challenging Times. But I shared a journey I had again out on the grounds here, where I had this image, this vision of a dark screen. And many people were being herded and corralled into this dark screen. And they were all walking blindly into it, looking at their phones, eating bad food, and really drinking loads of alcohol. And they were blind. They were unconscious to what was going on. And they were kind of lost into this bardo state that they will be cycling through for lifetimes. And they will come back out of it again. But it wasn't pretty. I didn't like it. And many of the things I saw in this vision I didn't want to see. But she said, look, you have to see this. And it was very much about what's going on in the world politically, the whole kind of situation with, the financial setup, the financial crashes that are coming, the way that our capitalist culture is bleeding the Earth's resources and making us slaves of that system. A lot of it was a bit to do with that kind of stuff. And people were walking blindly into it. There was 4 elements to this journey. There was another group then who were frightened. They were afraid, they were scared. But because they knew that it was wrong to go that way, but they didn't know what to do as an alternative. So they were kind of frightened and lost. And so they're out on the streets fighting and demonstrating and doing all sorts of things because they think they can change this whole system from the outside in. And there's where they are. And with respect to everybody's journey and process, wherever they are is where they are, and that's fine. No judgment on any of that. But there was a third group of people, and this is the likes of you who are here today, who had woken up, and not this wokeism that we hear about nowadays. This was people who had woke up because they had gone to hell. As somebody once said, the difference between religion and spirituality is one religion talks about hell, spirituality is about people who've been to hell. And that idea of descending into the hellish, shadowy place and then transcending out through it. It's like you go in this way, you deal with your stuff, and then you transcend to the heavenly spiritual realms. So this third group were these types of people who were awake, silently, quietly meditating, doing their yoga, doing their practice, drumming and journeying. And they were holding that intention not first for themselves, but for the community. And this second group often gravitated to those people because they were so lost and afraid and frightened. And this third group of people don't go and try and convert people because they'll kill you. They'll slaughter you. You go, hey, what are you doing with all this stuff over there? This is that, and you shouldn't be doing that. And you'll get, historically, the visionaries, the shamans have been martyred. They've been hung on crosses and they've been burned alive and they've been all sorts of things. So don't be bothered with that. You don't need that. The time for martyrdom is over. You don't need to martyr yourself now in this lifetime in order to do the work. If you do the work within yourself, you'll be fine. Because these people will find you. So you recommend a book to them. You do a shamanic counseling session with them. You teach them yoga. Or you encourage them to open up and be present to themselves, to help them take the same journey you took on the road less traveled. That's our intention. That's what we need to do there. And then there was another part of this vision, this journey, where there were others then between this third group and the spirit world. And these were the kind of, the real master shamans, the yogis, the ones that were real. The ones who you don't find on Facebook advertising courses for €5,500, and you'll find enlightenment. as Alan Watts once said, you know, somebody who promises you enlightenment is somebody who comes and steals your watch out of your pocket and then tries to sell it back to you. I got that very clearly one time, and the Shi folk said, you don't need to seek enlightenment. You are already enlightened. You just need to wake up to that realization. The truth is within us. There is no shortcut to it. There's no easy way to it. You've got to do the work. But I'll tell you what, it's bloody well worth it. Because the question we have to ask ourselves, do we want to go back to through that black screen because we're lazy, because we're not paying attention, because we won't put in the hard work of working on our own shadow? So these people, the true teachers, were there to mediate between the spirit world. And my goodness, I saw hosts of spirit guides and power animals and enlightened ones just across the dimension out of the physical world, lining up to help us, really wanting to be here for us. But they will never impose themselves on us. They will never come in and lead us to the truth or to the way, because we need to find that for ourselves by doing what we need to do. But they're there. So that's what I say to you. Do your practice. Do your inner journeys. Keep it moving, even though there will be times, you know, and there will be times when you don't feel like it, when you lose hope, when you lose heart, when you lose energy. That's the time you need to sit down with your drum or do your journey or whatever. It's at that time. And there may be something lurking within you that you're uncomfortable with, you don't want to feel or you don't want to deal with. But I promise you, if you do, yes, you may have a catharsis and you may go, oh, and you may have a difficult time. But once that's cleared, it's gone. And then there's space in you for light. Then there's space in you for hope. Then there's space in you for healing when you've done that. That is the process. So we also know that, you know, shamans work with non-ordinary states of consciousness right throughout time in order to get into those places, like the sweat lodge. Like some of them took the medicine plants. Others did the breath work. Others did isolation in nature over periods of time. Solitude is a big one, you know. It's really important to take time out now to be in silence, to be in solitude, to be alone with yourself. And because there's so much noise in the world at the moment, that can become increasingly difficult. But it's worth the effort. And I think you probably all found that out during the lockdown, that when you got out in nature and you took time out into that space, that you could really... And I think that's one of the things this whole thing has done for a lot of people, is made them reevaluate their connection with Mother Earth, with nature, and with everything we have. And it's like the simple things, like watching a leaf, the springtime coming and buds coming out. Watching every time I walk, and every day this bud was just a little bit bigger, and then the insects started coming out, and then the swallows started arriving, and then the birds started building. They were building nests, and then the young ones were hatching out. And for this year more than ever, the gift was of time to really notice how nature works, her beautiful, beautiful magic. And having slowed down to that place, it's hard to go back to it. I'm not going back to it. I don't think you are either, are you? I'm not going back to it. I'm not going back to that stuff. I'm not going back to the over busyness and, you know, always having to be a human doing and not a human being. I'm not going back to it. I can't go back to it. And I won't go back to it. No, we're not going back to it. No, because I think what this showed us, didn't it show us, this whole business showed us that what was normal. They're talking about getting back to normal. Well, if that's normal, they can keep it. You know, getting into your car at 7 o'clock in the morning to drive miles to work, or constantly rushing around to get things done, having all these social engagement with people you probably don't even like, you know. Having thousands of friends on Facebook that you have to keep attended to all the time, and looking for these dopamine hits for your likes and your this and your that and the other. No, I don't think that's what we're going back to. I think now we have an opportunity to really slow down and find out what is valuable in our lives. And of course, in shamanism too, the shaman was able to work with their ancestors, and our ancestors. You net pulled the card this morning, didn't you? And it was one of the Callier cards. And what came true? Ancestors. So that was the theme for the energy of the day. So the ancestors, we have to remember, folks, that our ancestors have gone through far worse than we're going through right now. Look at the wars and disease and pestilence and rebellions and natural disasters that all your ancestors on both sides had to go through in order for you to be sitting here today. Respect. That's respect, because, but the real truth is, all of that resilience and power and essence and energy is within you. You're carrying it, because otherwise you wouldn't be here. So now it's a time to tap back into that and bring it forward. So the shamans also had great regard and respect for the idea that, this idea, and not just the shaman, the yogis and the Hindus, Buddhists talk about, the different states of being. They talk about, Maya, the illusion, that this really is a setup here. It's like the Matrix from that movie. And that, everything we see around us is illusion. And that what we need to do is wake up to that by doing the kind of things we were talking about. Move through what they call Leela, which is the dance of life. This drama that Shakespeare talked about, all life is a stage and we're players on it. To get to this place of samsara, which is not a place somewhere else. It's not a place we go after we die and we go to nirvana. It's here, now, in this moment, if we stop long enough to find it and integrate it into the way we are in our lives. The shamans are also very much aware of prophecy. And they were able to journey back in time in the middle world and journey forward in time. And I found it a useful journey to do recently for me is to journey to my future self. And I've sat down with this old man. He's pretty old. I get a bit worried. I don't want to fucking live till I'm 90. Not in this world the way it is at the moment. But yeah, he was pretty old. But there were two versions of him. One was a cranky old bugger, Your typical cranky old man. No, I'm not a cranky old man. Anyway, he was angry, he was irritated, he was snapping at the world because of nothing was going right, and he was sick, and he had arthritis and all sorts of things. And then I went on another timeline and met this other man, and he was sitting back. He was cool. He was really chilled. He just didn't give a damn. And he reminded me of my grandfather, who was 92 when he died. And he gave me great advice. He said to me, when you're 90 and you're sitting there, how do you want to look back on your life? What are the things that you will consider to be important at that point? And I thought about it. And I said to him, family, friends, community, the earth, time in nature, children, music, poetry, dance. The things that for many, many years I had given up on and gotten too busy and went away from. And he said, yeah, tell the people that. Tell them to, and instruct them how to journey to their future selves and sit with the old woman, sit with the old man, and ask them to give them some advice on how to live their lives now. Because on the practitioner's course we do a module on death and rebirth, and one of the journeys there is we make death our friend, our ally, rather than running around as something death is to be afraid of. Because death is an advisor for life. It tells us what's really important, and it shows us that at one day this body will become finite and we will leave it, and our soul will travel all into the spirit world and into the afterlife. And the question is that I want to ask myself is, what am I going to bring with me into that world, into that place? I certainly aren't going to bring money, status, or any of the material things of this world or this life. What I'm going to bring with me is those memories, those experiences, those kind of times when, you know, you really connected into people, like here today. And also, all the things I did to lighten the shadow heaviness, the load, and build up the light energy, so that when the soul leaves your body at death, and you're going through the Bardo realms, that you're light, you're nimble, you're flexible, and you're ready to go. And so you transcend the limitations and you move to the higher upper levels, and therefore you can turn around and say, you may have a choice then to say, I'm not going back in there again. I'm done with that place for a while, because over the next decades and years and millennia, where I think there's going to be a lot of change and transformation happening on this planet, and I mean, you know, it comes to the point when you say to yourself, I think I've done enough. I'm out of here for now. Let somebody else come in and do it. I've done enough. Or maybe it's time for us to transcend and leave it. And one of the visions I had many years ago was all the great indigenous peoples and the animals who were gone extinct, and these great beings were incarnating on another Earth, a new Earth, an interdimensional place. It was parallel to this place, but it was pristine, it was beautiful, it had everything going for it, nature was alive, we were total harmony with each other and community, and it gave me great hope, because I was very much in despair at the time, thinking, oh my goodness, we're destroying the Earth, we're killing off all the animals and the species, we may not even survive. But it was a great joy to see that there are other Earths in other dimensions, and going there will depend on whether you have paid the price of the entrance ticket. And the price of the entrance ticket is all the stuff I've been talking about here today. This work we do in ourselves, this transcending to the upper realms. So I'll finish with again repeating what I got yesterday. She said, the universe seeks novelty. Consciousness is constantly wanting to express itself in as high a vibrational frequency as it can. Those who open themselves to that energy flowing through them will be uplifted into the higher spaces. It will challenge them, because they will have to burn through all that limits them, or all that stops them from going to those places. And the ones who do not pay attention to that truth will unfortunately burn in themselves. Because as the energy comes in, this higher frequency energy, it'll start storing them, and they'll panic. And they will turn to their old habits and old ways to try and dampen it down, alcohol, drugs, and all that stuff, to try and keep the lid on it. The lid will not be able to be kept on it any longer. It's coming. It won't be stopped. So the truth, she said, was, let it through. Open up. She said, when you take the step towards the unfolding universe, people, situations, and things will come meeting towards you as the universe expresses itself towards you, to give you all you need to take the next step forward to where you're going. It was a beautiful, beautiful insight. I'm still working on it. I'm still integrating it, but it feels like there's a deep truth in that, isn't there? So what does that mean now going forward? What that means for all of us going forward now is lock and load, folks. Strap in. We're going forward. We're going in. We're not stopping. And we're going to get the drums out now, and we're going to go into the journey, and let's go.
This place would not exist. All right, he was doing some of this work beforehand. But not here. So without Martin, Dundee Park would not, the house would be here, but it would not be what it is today. So I offered this mead to Martin, so that he can honour the Caliph on behalf of each and every one of us.
As I take this heart of plenty, I want to honor Lorna. Without Lorna, my co-conspirator in setting up this place, a beautiful old wise woman from England that I met on a shamanic training course in the UK, and something happened. The strangest thing happened. When she came to Ireland for me to help her doing shamanic counseling, she was writing a book. On the last day, this thing jumped in between us. We never could figure out what happened. But a year later, this place opened. That was the magic. That old, and she maintained, of course, that we knew each other over many lifetimes, and that we had done the same thing over many times. But this place doesn't just exist here today because of me and Lorna. Without Annette here, who I've always called the glue that holds this place together, this place would not be here. Because she has held it together in ways that people never know. It's all behind the scenes work, with her prayers, with her energy, with her administration, and with everything she does. And also to Ollie, who tends the grounds here. To my brother Peter, who made this beautiful entrance. To Mary and Joanna and all the staff who've helped over the years and worked in the kitchen and provided beautiful, nourishing food to us. It's all down to them. And of course, most importantly, the Spirit. And to all of these people who come, if they didn't come, there'd be no point in being here. We'd be standing here on our own doing nothing. To you, and all that have come here over the last 23 years, thousands of people have gathered in these circles, working with us for the last 23 years. And when we shut down, I missed that. And when I was walking up today to the house and I saw you all sitting on the front steps laughing, having a crack again, my heart opened again. It was beautiful to see you back doing that. And we'll be back doing it again pretty soon. Because we're not going anywhere. We'll be here when you're ready to come back here.
For the next 23.
For the next 23 years. So do I, so I dedicate this mead to herself. A beautiful woman. The feminine. The goddess. The Kalia. Our patron.
That is what the ear and the eye has witnessed. May the spirits of the four directions be thanked for their blessings.
We stand together here and now, between past and future, the earth below us, the heavens above us, and the circle of trees around us. This is sacred time. This is sacred space.
Once the circle is passed, it is a very sacred space. And it's a very sacred time for each and every one of us to be here. So may I bless this circle and purify this circle with water.
I bless this circle with the element of fire. So I bless you with this element of fire.
So if you'd all like to face the east, but first of all, Martin will also read the four directions.
We turn to the south. May there be peace in the south. Aho. And to the west. May there be peace in the west. Aho. And to the north. May there be peace in the north. Aho.
With the blessings of earth, sea and sky, may our ceremony begin. O Great Spirit, O Spirit of this land of Dundee, we greet you and we honour you and ask you for your blessings on this ceremony and on this circle. So, let all disturbing thoughts fade away. All disturbing thoughts. Anything that's out there in the world, just let them all fade away as I cast this circle.
When the darkness in the world starts to close in around you, and all you hear and all you see is negativity and darkness, remember this. Remember this. Remember this fire. Bring that fire into your hearts and ignite it and light the light within yourself. Keep it lit. Remember, the earth goes through many, many different changes over many times. This is just another time. It's an initiation for her, it's an initiation for you, it's an initiation for us. Never lose sight of that. You know we need to nurture our souls, we need to mind our souls, we need to care for the soul. The soul loves music. It loves poetry. It loves dance. It loves joy, anything that raises your vibration. It loves this. It loves this, what we did here today. So well done, everybody. We love you. We hope you keep safe. Safe journeys home and safe journeys in the other world. And we really look forward to, from our hearts, to welcome you back here again. Thank you. Safe driving. If you're going a journey, be careful and drive safely and mind yourself.
And thank you to Maria for holding the space. Thank you.
Thanks for building it so we just remembering the name. I was like, that's neat.